caught my 29M girlfriend, 27F, crying over the engagement of her ex from nearly a decade ago. My 29M girlfriend, 27F, and I have been dating for almost 4 years. I would say in general, it's been pretty good, but there have definitely been a few beige flags on both our parts. That being said, last night, I caught her crying over engagement photos of her ex of 8-9 years ago. I also happen to know she was staring at the pics for at least 30 minutes, if not longer. She says nothing's going on and she just wanted attention from me, huh? But this is a crazy red flag, right? You don't just start bawling over someone you used to date nearly a decade ago unless you still have feelings, right? Posting to get some outside perspectives, as I'm pretty close to the situation, but damn, feels bad, man. Too long did not read. Caught girlfriend crying over ex from long ago, wondering what to do now. Edit. Since this has come up a few times in the comments, I did ask what the crying was about. I'm not a completely insensitive jackass. I just didn't get a particularly straight answer beyond, "I'm sorry, I love you," which feels like a non-answer. I'm feeling a little raw, so I've set some boundaries and we'll revisit the conversation. I'm not one to leave things unresolved. This is just a new situation for me, hence the turning to groupthink, rightly or wrongly. Edit 2. Since this is also a common theme in the comments. We have repeatedly spoken about marriage and had come to a mutual agreement that we should both be 30 for a variety of reasons. This was a very mutual decision that she instigated. It has nothing to do with lack of commitment. Simply practically. You can be nostalgic about things you don't actually want to go back to. Let me guess, he told her he never wanted to get married and she either wasted a few years thinking he'd change his mind, or she believed him, only to find out it was that he didn't want to marry her. I don't know her, but it seems like she's crying over the fact that he's probably the same age as her and has proposed to his girlfriend and she has been in a relationship with you for 4 years and is still a girlfriend. I would ask her why she was upset about it. Is it possible she's crying because she's comparing relationships and you haven't proposed to her after 4 years? IDK. Maybe I'm heartless and emotionless, as my ex-husband called me, but crying about an ex from 8-9 years ago? What the fuck? That's insane, but that's just me. This kind of reminds me of an ex I have from around 15 years ago. She cheated on me and left me for a guy she ended up marrying, so I've actually been really happy for them. Well, last year I moved back from NYC after almost a decade and a mutual friend between the ex and myself invited me to a cookout and then quickly took the invitation back because my ex would be there. I told him, "Oh no, that's cool man, I really don't care and I'm happy for them because it's been over 15 years. He replied, "Yeah, but she does care." That was a really strange moment and the mutual friend also quit talking to me after that. I literally have no idea what happened. Boyfriend, 34M, of 5 years is buying a house and wants me, 32F, to pay rent. What's fair? Edit. Thanks all for the responses. I spoke with boyfriend and it went well. He said he hadn't brought up marriage because he thought I wasn't interested, but he is interested. He said he is stressed out about the idea of a wedding and the cultural expectations around it, and I am too, to be honest. But marriage, he is on board. We haven't locked down the timeline, but I figure this was a good first step to initiate the discussion. As for the house, we are still trying to figure out what makes logical sense. It sounds like the reason it's so complicated is that, edited for clarity, his parents are helping with a significant portion of the cost, to where they will either buy the house in full or the mortgage will be very small. He will pay his parents back over time. The concern around equity seems to be how to navigate ownership between him, myself, and his parents. Even if we married, I don't know if they would be okay adding me to the title. He understands my concerns and we will take some time to brainstorm a solution that works best for us, but I made it clear that I don't intend to move in unless we have at least some rough plan figured out before then. I'm kind of even more confused because the advice here is really conflicting, some people saying I am being unreasonable and entitled, some saying that I'm getting taken for a ride. Also, it seems like all of my comments are getting severely downvoted, even the ones just asking clarification questions, so what's up with that? Underscore, 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 underscore. My boyfriend, 34M, and I, 32F, have been together for 5 years and have lived together in a rented apartment for 2 years. He's now planning to buy a house in the next year, and I'm unsure how to approach the situation regarding my contribution. We currently split expenses 50-50, and our incomes are similar. However, his net worth is much higher because his parents covered his education, while I'm still paying off loans for my master's degree. I can't contribute significantly to a down payment, but I'm supportive of his goal to own a home. That said, I like our current rental and wouldn't benefit from moving, as I'd be further from the city and lose my apartment amenities. He's asked that I help out by paying him a monthly amount toward the mortgage. He didn't specify how much but said it would be less than what I currently pay for rent. My concerns. Equity. If I'm contributing monthly, I feel it would be fair for me to have some stake in the house. Otherwise, it feels like I'm subsidizing his mortgage and helping him gain wealth while gaining nothing in return. Dynamic. Paying him rent feels uncomfortable, like he's my landlord, which creates a power imbalance. As the owner of the house, he could, in theory, evict me. Emotional disconnect. After 5 years together, I would like to feel like we are building a life together. Paying into his mortgage without any shared ownership makes it feel like it's his house, not our home. We're committed and have talked about marriage being part of our future, although we never had concrete plans as it wasn't an urgent priority for either of us. I asked him about his timeline, and he said he hadn't thought much about it but he would like to buy the house first and then think about marriage. I think marriage would address some of my concerns since I'd see the house as a joint investment. However, I'm unsure what's fair or legal when it comes to contributing to the monthly payments, both if we married before or after the purchase. I want to ensure things are fair. I don't mind contributing to household expenses, but I also want to protect myself and avoid feeling taken advantage of. Has anyone been in a similar situation? How did you handle it? What would be a reasonable way to approach this? Thanks in advance for any advice. Too long did not read. My boyfriend is buying a house and wants me to pay him rent. I don't mind contributing to building our life together, but I'm uneasy about subsidizing his mortgage without equity or ownership while he builds wealth. This dynamic feels unbalanced, especially since we're committed and have talked about marriage. How can I protect myself and ensure a fair arrangement? I mean, financially it's fair. You will be gaining something having somewhere to live for a cheaper amount than you're paying now. Your equity concern is a dud. That being said, after 5 years of dating and no ring at 33 years old, I'd probably call it quit. If he's talking about rent now, there's probably no plans to propose either. 1. You aren't subsidizing mortgage, you are paying rent. You are getting a place to stay in return. 2. That's why you get a basic rental contract. 3. Honestly, it's not a good financial decision to buy house together if you aren't married. If you break up, it gets messier to deal with. And as you said, you cannot help with down payment. So, it's fair to say it's his house. He might add you on the deed after your marriage. Have you had discussed it thoroughly? I honestly think he is being fair. But then again, you decide if this is okay for you. Sorry sis. No, you don't deserve to be put on the deed and you don't earn equity by paying him rent. He bought this house without you. It is his house. If that doesn't agree with you, obtain a rental you can afford on your own and don't move in with him. If after 5 years you are still waiting to wed, move on. He's not interested. Actions speak louder than words. Get married, then buy a house together. Or, stay single and don't move into his house. At this point, you need to decide if he's really building a life with you or for himself. If you like the apartment, is it possible to take over the lease? I honestly wouldn't pay him rent. I would get my own place. It's totally fair for you to pay rent. You're paying your landlord's mortgage right now, so this would be no different. You could have a discussion with him about what would happen after you are married, as at that time, it would be appropriate that you be on the deed to the house, but you would need to either contribute half of what the original down payment was, or sign an agreement stating that in the event of a divorce, he would retain all of the initial down payment. My boyfriend, 31M, doesn't want to marry me, 28F. Hi guys, I don't even know if I need advice on this one or if I just need to vent and get this out of my head. But anyway, I used a throwaway because I don't want this like to my main boyfriend and I just celebrated our 3-year anniversary. By celebrated, I mean he said he'd go all out and make us homemade sushi. We had everything at home, he just needed to buy rice. He then was out and about to drive almost an hour to someone he bought something for his hobby from, and he forgot to get the rice. Few days later he tells me we'd go and get a nice lunch, since we already had to get some stuff in the city and our child was in daycare. The day comes and he totally forgot that. We had to rush through our errands, because he and his best friend want us to go skiing for the weekend. First off, I was so sad that I didn't even get flowers or something. But I hadn't anything planned on the other hand either, so I feel like I don't have the right to be upset. To the proposal thing. He was super vocal about wanting something serious right from the beginning. We started dating, moved in together after about a year, we then found out that we're going to be parents. At first I thought he'd propose before our child arrives. He didn't. BC he said we were both so busy with preparing everything for the baby. We did an amazing vacation when Lo was 9 months. I thought he was proposing there we were at significant other many romantic, once-in-a-lifetime spots. He said he's still waiting for the right moment to propose. Like the birth of his child or traveling through most of Europe and some of Asia wasn't enough. I had high hopes that he'd ask me on our Lo first birthday. Or Christmas. Or New Year's. But nothing. I told him that it made me upset that he didn't propose and he said he wanted to wait until he got a better paying job. He already makes a good amount of money. And he also wanted to save enough money for a wedding before he proposes. He knows that I don't want a huge, expensive wedding. Just something nice and small with our families and friends. Now he's starting his new, even better paying job, in 2 weeks. He also just gave a friend of him like $10K as in Kickstarter for his restaurant. And I was so sure that I'd get proposed to on our anniversary, but he didn't. And now I'm starting to think that he just doesn't want to marry me at all. I'm sorry, I feel like he doesn't want to marry you, or no plans at all. 'Cause if he really want to marry you, he should talk openly to you about it in his plans. I guess you should get going with your life without him. I'd say you are correct and he doesn't want to marry you. I'm sorry, I would start planning my exit. He doesn't sound like someone you can put your trust in. What about his past behavior made you think that he would propose? You two aren't in alignment at all with what the timeline to get engaged or married looks like. It's time to stop beating around the bush and have a conversation like a pair of adults about where marriage sits as a matter of priority for the two of you and when that will occur and what barriers you have to entering that financial and legal contract with one another. There's a sub on Reddit for people waiting to wed, visit and see your future. 3 years anniversary and he already set the bar that low? Set a timeline for yourself and communicate this with him, and if you are married, great. If he doesn't, leave. F the proposal. You can be engaged for 10 years. Set a date and get it done. It's really that simple. If he wanted to marry you, he would have asked already. He's giving you every sign in the world that he doesn't want to marry you. He has every excuse. He doesn't do anything for you but he helps out his friends. Yeah, sounds like a really nice guy. Tell him you're done with the relationship and get out. Get child support and move on. If he wanted to make it happen he would have by now. How do I tell my wife, 36F, that I, 36M, don't want a 4th kid? We have 3 beautiful kids that we both love more than life itself. Our marriage has been good, with the same challenges that most all marriages come with. Whenever our biggest challenges is how to argue. I have a huge problem with ignoring issues until they blow up my face, and she has a problem of stonewalling anyone who disagrees with her. That has made conversations about a potential 4th child very difficult. She wants it very, very badly. She was a 3rd child herself, and she has always felt very alone in her life. She didn't grow up having many friends outside of her mom. I think she believes that if she had a sibling her own age, her 2 siblings were 10 and 12 years older than her life would have been better. Personally, I couldn't imagine having another child. As much as I love them, having 3 kids within 5 years has been exceedingly stressful on both of us. My wife frequently says that she's at her breaking point mentally. I pride myself on not being one of those, let the mother raise the children, dads, and try to help out as much as I possibly can every day. Even still it's a challenge just because of the nature of kids. Are also only going on my income, and are living in a 3-2 house. What scares me is that the first time she brought up wanting one and I expressed doubt, she basically threatened divorce. If I'm being honest, if we did get pregnant again I'm pretty sure everybody in our orbit would think that we were crazy for even trying. The only one that wants it is her. I love her and I want to give her whatever she wants in this world, but I'm just so afraid that this would break us. Edit. Thanks so much for all the helpful posts. It just helps to get this off my chest and hear from people outside the two of us. For the post saying I should get a secret vasectomy or one without talking to her first, I'm not comfortable doing that. It seems wrong to make the choice for the both of us. I don't want her forcing me to have a 4th, but I don't want to force her not to have one if that makes sense. My wife frequently says that she's at her breaking point mentally. You know what goes great with mental breakdown? Pregnancy hormones and caring for a newborn. Her logic doesn't even make sense. You've had 3 kids within 5 years. There isn't a 10 or 12-year age gap. And you know what's gonna happen. Your 4th kid is gonna need a 5th sibling, and so on. Either hash it out, or schedule a vasectomy and sit on a bag of peas when she's not looking and make sure to give samples later to be sure your swimmers are bye-bye. For her to go at you and threaten divorce is wild. Imagine if the tables were turned and you were pressing her as a woman to have a 4th and you brought up divorce if she didn't comply. Get a vasectomy. You do not have children you cannot afford. Perhaps write her a letter if she won't talk, or consider couples counseling. Your kids don't have the Sam's age gap she did, so her past won't repeat itself. Longest rule I have ever known is both partners need to agree on children. I heard that rule as a teenager a million years ago by a family psychologist. If she's threatening divorce, she doesn't respect you, and if you cave, she will respect you even less if that's possible.